Welcome to Skin and Soul. I'm Gwenm Carsley, a transformational body, sex, and soul coach, and I'm inviting you on a bold, unfiltered journey into the heart of our humanity through the lens of eros. This is where we strip away the shame, dive into the unspoken, and embrace the wild, raw truth of our desires. Together, we'll crack open the taboo, uncover our deepest intimacies, and awaken the pulse of our sexual essence. Because real transformation, it's messy, it's thrilling, and it's oh so delicious. Buckle up, loves. Skin and Soul Beyond the Pale starts in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Hi there, I'm Gwenm. I'm your host of Skin and Soul Beyond the Pale on the new Transformation Talk Revolution, which is part of the Transformation Network. And I have with me today Deborah Lukovich, who is a depth psychology coach, author of When Sex Meets God, which I am loving, dream interpreter, and the host of the Dose of Depth podcast. Sorry, that's going to take my tongue a moment.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be talking about desire, shadow, midlife, awakening, dating, attraction, younger lovers, which I'm super excited to get into, and what happens when your soul wakes up before your life catches up. So I'm so eager around this because, and I'm just going to dive right in, which is what I usually do. So welcome, first of all.
Thank you. Thank you.
So this book is such a beautiful treasure of your experiences that goes really into depth in your marriage, and then the unraveling and falling apart, which I love because we get to have a real sense of partnership, commitment. It's all there, and then it all kind of unravels, and we do hear the voice throughout. But what gets so delicious is this awakening that happens. And before we even start, I think do you want to talk a little bit about what depth psychology is before we dive in a little bit deeper?
Yeah, I think that would be great. In fact, sometimes when I say depth psychology, people are like, what, death? Death psychology? So it
Mhm.
is good to sort of say depth psychology is basically Jungian psychology for those people who are a little bit familiar with Carl Jung. Sometimes people in an unraveling will accidentally find him. And one of the books that they might find is Modern Man in Search of a Soul. And if people have taken the Myers-Briggs inventory, that work is based on Carl Jung's psychological types theory. So the Myers-Briggs does not even go as deep as you can go. I could study my psychological type forever. So really, depth psychology is the study of the unconscious. So much focus is put on the mind and the brain and cognition and all of that. But even science says that we only know about 20% of ourselves, who we are, why we're attracted to certain people, why we're even doing what we're doing today. We literally
Yeah.
only know about 20% of the story. So, in my memoir, for example, I eventually discover that deeper hidden agenda of marrying the man that I married. And it,
Mhm.
it was surprising to me. And then it also made a lot of sense. So, yeah, so generally speaking, it's the study of the unconscious.
And you were interested in studying the unconscious when you were in your marriage, which I think is really interesting that he was kind of like,
Well, I mean, it's my story is very depth psychology
yeah.
because I didn't necessarily say, "Oh, I would have studied depth psychology one day." I had that synchronistic moment, this sort of double take, this what do you call it? Deja vu. Ah, I'm here again. I feel like I should do something else. And when I did something else, then I found what felt like the answer that would save my soul. So, really, after living the first part of my life in a very, you could say, masculine way, meaning that I was very goal driven, achievement driven, mind, intellect, all of that, that, you know, discovering that I wanted to go study depth psychology and I didn't even know what it was. I had just heard of Carl Jung and it was very
Mhm.
expensive. And it was like, I know my husband's not going to go everything. It was like this first time in my life where I answered this irrational calling that didn't make any sense. And so what is the meaning of that, right? So as I got myself to my education, my life fell apart. And it like that synchronicity happened just before everything fell apart. So it was there as a framework for me. And I lived all the concepts in real time, including being in the grip of a complex. Like, oh my God, I know what they mean now by being in the grip of a complex. Like, why am I saying what I'm saying? I can't help saying what I'm saying. And then I'm embarrassed later on. I mean, it was crazy. And I think like, to this day, I still don't know the deeper agenda. I don't of myself, my capital S self,
Hmm.
where it's leading me, but I more willingly follow now as opposed to resisting.
Yeah, there's something interesting that I realized what happened for me as well is that there's this like higher guiding
Hmm.
um, thing that shows up. I mean, I just all of a sudden stopped having a filter. Things were just kind of happening. I want to say through me, to
Yeah.
me, and through me, kind of in a synchronistic way that I couldn't stop. And so, as you were going through this, and it probably showed up in a very synchronistic way, as you said, right? Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And I wonder if oftentimes we walk into life at the very beginning with this is how I'm supposed to live life. Like, there's that unconscious, like, this is how it should show up. I'm supposed to have get the marriage, like have the good man, have the kids, do the thing that I think I'm passionate about, and then something else ends up showing up. And so, um, what I love is that, it's this the sexual awakening that happens, right?
Right.
This hunger, which by the way, again, I'm like, yay, women in their 50s, like reclaiming their sexuality and being juicy and warm and hot and wanting intimacy and actually just even wanting to explore without having any kind of connection, which is we're gonna like talk about the younger men
Yeah.
and delving into that and that they're all showing up around the same age, which is around 33, right? It's the
33. It was
33.
so strange. I did not do that on purpose. It just literally they just kept showing up
Hmm.
and I was like 33 again. And what's interesting? Oh my God, I just got this now. My numerology, my number is
Hmm.
33.
Oh, wow.
33 plus 3 equals 6. So it is, yeah.
Yeah.
So that has to do, and I'm not an expert in numerology at all, but 3 and 6 have to do with deep sense of sort of managing self-doubt and insecurity and creativity. So now
Hmm.
looking even through that lens, it makes sense that these particular men showed up and helped facilitate this deeper relationship with myself. And those were the men, we'll talk about the men, but there
Hmm.
was a series of men and I experienced that through my mind. I was still sort of in charge, but still like, oh my gosh, like I'm coming into deeper relationship with my body and sexuality. And then I take a break. And then there's the next one
The
that
one.
sweeps me up, and that goes beyond my mind. And so when you say, I like what you said when you feel like there's this other prodding in the background that is
Hmm.
yourself, but you also said forces flowing through you. So Carl
Yeah.
Jung talked about the self, capital S, as this ordering principle. And it is kind of oversees your conscious and your unconscious is bigger than your conscious. But
Hmm.
the deeper your relationship is with that self, that is the bridge to this transcendent. So if that's God for you, or the divine, or the goddesses, or the quantum realm, or nature, or
Hmm.
whatever, that like you can only access and walk through the door of the divine and what transcends you through your relationship with your capital S self.
Yeah, with the parts, because it's true. I mean, the conscious part is actually, like you said, I love that you say it's so limited. It's much smaller. And
Mhm.
it's also not a lens that's particularly true. It's just, it's being fed through the subconscious and it's informing what you think is your rational mind, but it's really just it's your protector. It's the part of you that's just telling you this is how you're going to stay safe if you stick into this kind of
Yeah,
framework.
and Carl Jung would say the first part of life, it's not that it shouldn't go the way that it went.
Hmm.
I mean, people should not regret. I don't regret being married for 24 years. I needed that. It served a purpose. It rescued me from the chaos of my relationship and sexual experiences. I had a financial safety. I was able to develop my masculine, which was needed in order for me to fall apart. right?
Mm-hmm.
So it sort of had to happen the way that it happened. But generally speaking, Carl Jung would say midlife is a thing that starts around 35. It's not really as much about age as it is about this moment where you're like, oh, all those things I thought were true and all those
Mm-hmm.
assumptions I made, a lot of them aren't. Oh my God, my identity is built on all of those assumptions. So in the beginning of our lives, we go from being whole with our mother to learning to be separate, but yet at the same time, we're trying to be unique, but we're trying to fit in. And then sometimes there's less freedom to be unique and there's more conforming, and we can get out of whack and our lives become very one-sided. And then that's when this sense of dread or this twinge of discontent or this all out like, oh, my husband left me. Wow, that came out of nowhere. Where did that come from?
Mm-hmm.
Or I got, let go from a job and that was a blow to my ego. So it's sort of like this is a natural part of life, but we're really not prepared for it. And we're certainly not prepared to find the deeper meaning because, many people, I don't know about a percentage, but not everybody's like me, where I was like, let's dig in, man. I don't want to have an affair.
Mm-hmm.
I want to dig into my unconscious and figure out how I got here. But many other people are like, no, that's terrifying. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to busy myself and I'm going to double down on my career, or I'm going to maybe have an affair that is sort of a
Yeah.
deflection from the real work, or I'm going to run marathons without knowing why. Why am I addicted to running marathons and that sort of thing? So so falling apart it just happens. But having a
It
framework,
does.
yeah, having a
And
framework
I
is
like
very
that.
helpful.
But I love that you're bringing in the framework because again, like it's something for me where I'm like, oh yeah, I can see how having, deep stability for a time and even probably around mid 30s, late 30s, I could feel the unraveling. Like this, it was a slow unraveling. It was like so that by the time the mid 40s kind of hit, it was that sense of, oh, yeah, no, I have ignored this long enough, and all of those voices. And when you start describing how you end up going, and we'll talk about it, but how you end up going into these, like falling into these younger men relationships. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I mean, because I know for me right now, I'm like, what is it with the young men showing up? I'm just like, this is so interesting. Of just, and I was actually sitting there in admiration because I've had my probably more when I was younger. I was having more of the affairs or like pre being in a long-term relationship, and then
Yeah.
right when I got out of my relationship I had like these spurts of, oh yeah, I'm going to go explore all of these things, but found I ended up liking just my own exploration of my body much more so,
Yeah.
um because it felt safer and still feels safer. And I think the older I get, when you talk about when sex meets God, like for me, I had that transcendent place is so deeply personal at this stage that I find it like it's almost, it's like, oh, listening, reading your book, I'm like both intrigued and I'm like, I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could go there, but it's interesting.
Well, I mean, okay, so you've probably heard, everybody's probably heard of the concept of projection these days, because
Hmm.
the last 10 years, like there's so much projection going on. But that's just how we are. There is no such
Hmm.
thing as not projecting unless you're just a hermit, right? So projection is basically you project onto other people sort of your subjective experience of the
Hmm.
world. And based on your emotional reaction to them, they are mirroring something back to you. So I developed a framework called 3Ps of relationships. It's a framework and it's purpose, projection, and permanence. So projection or purpose, in my mind, the purpose of every encounter with another human being
Hmm.
is psychospiritual growth. So you either grow by failing to learn a lesson or you grow by learning a lesson, and none of it's right or wrong. This is just how we grow. And this is why some people, if they leave a relationship and just jump into another one, and they're like, oh my God, this person is so different. And then 6 months later, they're like, oh shoot, deja vu, this feels familiar, because they didn't learn the deeper meaning of the encounter with the other person. They just wanted to escape it. And so, so projection, especially in romantic relationships, is really interesting because when people are really intensely attracted to each other, the attraction
Hmm.
is not for the other person. The attraction is for what they symbolize.
Hmm.
And what happens is typically people don't realize that. And so they don't realize that their attraction to this man who's successful, whatever it is, that their unconscious is saying, no, 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 I want you to be a little like that. I want that for you. But typically they don't do that. They don't get a little more like their partner. Instead, their roles become rigid over time. And so the things that attracted them initially become the irritants in their relationship.
Yeah.
So, and then there's another special kind of projection with people, those people that you admire and feel disdain for at the same time. If
Hmm.
you admire them, whatever you feel disdain for is your unconscious saying, yeah, you need that trait. Not like them, but you need that trait, that underlying trait. And your unconscious is like, I have to show you a really dramatic example because you're not listening to me. So it's a really interesting lens, depth psychology. So when you go to work and you're like, this twinge in my heart chakra. Oh, I'm so annoyed by that person. And usually what you're annoyed with is something that you're afraid that you might be or that you might become. So yeah, so all
Yeah,
the
and
men,
that's well, you can't recognize, right? And you can't be annoyed or fall in love for that matter without having those pieces within you. So that projection is really part of you. I always say when that love or that irritation, whatever it is you, that it's always being generated within us.
yeah.
Like it's the
It's
thing that like, right?
yeah, it's actually not love. We shouldn't even really call it love. I mean, really, it's not, but it's just how we relate and how we learn about ourselves. And love is sometimes I'm to my clients, I'm like, No, that's not love you're showing for your daughter. Mm-mm.
Mm.
If you're walking around like terrified that she might do this or that, like that's not love."
No, it's not. Yeah, if there, well, no, because that's the projection, right? That's the,
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
we get confused. Yeah, because we're
Yeah.
so I mean, a big thing that I teach my clients is how to separate the thing, the incident, the action
Hmm.
from the emotional reaction to it. And if it's something if you're feeling other than emotionally neutral, then you're not seeing clearly what the thing is. You're layering onto it something from the past onto the current situation. And that's really hard. That's the first big concept for people to get is like, that doesn't mean that I'm excusing their behavior, but my emotional reaction is about me. It's
Hmm.
not about the thing that they did.
No, it has nothing to do with the other. So
Yeah.
then, and maybe I'm jumping the gun in terms of, how do you experience love then? So I hear you talking about taking away the charge, right? On either side. It's that if you're feeling um, anything that you're placing onto someone is not love, or
I
it's
mean,
not, it's the,
it's passion, it's
Mhm.
desire. I mean, Carl Jung has this term for relationships that he calls a psychological marriage. So, not technical marriage, but it could be in a marriage where both people have at least a little bit of a conscious awareness that they are not fully conscious of the deeper meaning of their relationship. So, like
Yeah.
my third P is permanence. So, when someone feels devastated at the thought of their relationship ending,
Hmm.
that's not love, that's neediness,
Yeah.
right? So if you're attached to the need for a relationship to last, like that's not really altruistic love for another person. But if you are like, oh, I don't know, I hope this marriage lasts forever, and if it doesn't, I don't know, I think I'll be fine, it'll be hard,
Hmm.
all of that,
Yeah.
then you can be honest in your relationship. So the neediness usually keeps honesty off the table because there's a
Hmm.
fear, right? So the more you can accept that the relationship might not last, the more honest you will be, and then the better the likelihood of your relationship lasting the way that you want it to.
Yeah. Yeah, which you actually mention it in your book, right? Even when you were talking with your husband at the time, your ex-husband, you kept saying, is this the thing that's going to end us, right? Which I think is ironic. I mean, when just looking in the background of maybe that wasn't the thing that was on the table, but that was a line that kept showing up in your marriage was, is this the thing that's going to break us up? Um,
Yeah,
is
well,
that, am I missing it right?
he's the one that said that. I was like shocked. I was like, what? I wasn't even thinking that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But that worked on me.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of that, like, put it back on me. And that really worked for a long time. I was like, oh my God, I wasn't saying that. Okay, I'll be quiet. Okay, never mind, never mind. So I'm sorry I brought it up.
Yeah, neediness is a romance killer, I think, for either side. And
Sometimes it's not. Sometimes people are it's part of their identity. So,
mm,
but there's misunderstanding of the deeper thing that's going on. I mean, sometimes either being needy or being needed feels like love. It really does. It's very hard to see
it's
it.
true.
It's
Yeah.
very hard to see it when you're in it. So until something starts to go wrong, it feels like love. I mean, I didn't not love my husband. I loved him.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't understand that part of my attraction to him had to do with the sort of sense of stability he brought to my otherwise chaotic experience of coming of age in the 80s. So
Mm-hmm.
in fact, I talk a little bit in hindsight. We were a great couple because we were kind of rebellious in our own way. Me, a different kind of rebellious, him, a rebellious against, the way that his family was. And so we were partners in crime for a very long time. So it could have ended up being a different way, but
Yeah.
people usually develop and grow at different rates. So eventually you may outgrow a relationship, and there ought not to be, now there's this concept of conscious uncoupling. There's less shame
Mm-hmm.
with ending a relationship because it's the shame that does the damage to the children, the shame and the anger and all of
Yeah.
that, the hurt. And that's all about fear. Fear of what people will say, fear that I failed. That's what causes the damage to the children
Yeah,
and
and fear of loss. Yeah, to the children. And I was going to say also fear of loss. I think there's still aspects I think that many people cling to in terms of possession, right? Like what happens.
yeah.
It's also our habits. We've lived with, when you've lived with somebody for a really long time, there's the fear of losing the
There's
habit,
lot
the one
there,
stable. Yeah.
there's lots of fears. Yeah.
That's fair. So in being with so I want to go back because I think it's a yummy topic, this whole dating younger men. And one thing that I loved about your book is that it really exposed a lot of vulnerability in these men. Like it exposed a lot of they were all good men, all coming from their own experience. So how did you find like just dating younger men?
Oh my God, I loved it. I love
Hmm.
millennial men. I still love millennial men. In fact, I had this particular place, as you know, that I would go have my first dates because I knew the owner and he was kind of acting like protected me in a way. And I was sitting with one of them. It was my PhD man, Shane. And I was sitting with one of them and I could overhear two boomers like and my former husband is like the youngest boomer there is, and I'm like the oldest Gen X there is. But we're pretty kind of stereotypical,
Hmm.
in those ways. So I was overhearing these two boomers talk, and I looked to my younger, date, and I'm like, oh my God, I love millennial men because they just talk about different things. They're more about experiences where the boomers were like talking about the stock market and their 401ks and their like
Yeah.
bigger house or whatever it was, and it was just so striking to me. So well, I could describe the scene. When my marriage fell apart, I did not go into the arms of another man. I went to Carl Jung. I fell in love with he was my affair. So Carl Jung was my affair, and my intellect is my main sex organ. So that makes a lot of sense for me. So I was just busy pursuing my master's PhD. I had to have stability for the kids. And of course, my former husband struggled with alcoholism. So I just needed stability. And so it's right after I turned 50, I was getting divorced. I don't think I'd filed yet, getting divorced. And I'm at the beach at the tiki bar with my laptop. Of course, that's a strange scene for anybody, right? So, and I'm just whatever. And then suddenly I feel this energy. And there's this man standing next to me, a younger man, clearly. I didn't know how young. And he's trying to get the bartender's attention. And I'm like, hey, I got you. Because I was queen of the beach because I helped bring it back. And I'm like, I got you. And then he just starts, talking to me like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm studying depth psychology. Like, oh, my name is Rick. I'm like, okay, whatever. But then he started asking more questions. And do you play volleyball? Yeah. Do you need somebody on your team? And I'm just like, I don't know, whatever. And I gave him my pen. I'm like, here, give me your number. I'll ask my team, whatever. And then the cheeseburger comes and he walks away. And then I like have this little twinge in my belly. And I'm like, what? What? What is happening? And I look back and I'm just like, oh yeah, there's that. It's been like 2.5 years since anything. And then I go on to have this, he joins our team, and I go on to have this most awkward experience with this man. And I love that it's interesting because you pick up on, I guess I show the vulnerability of these men with, I wasn't
Mhm.
really trying to do that. They're just who showed up for me. So finally, after like 3 months of awkward, like, is he interested in me? Is he not interested in me? Is this just dating millennial men, whatever it is? Like 2 months later, 3 months later, then as I'm going to file divorce, I get this text from him and we're going to have a date. So, and it's very clunky and I won't say what happens, but like he accidentally opens me up. And
Mhm.
then he drops off the face of the earth. And I'm like, how dare you? What? You're gonna open my faucet and then leave? Oh my gosh, now I need this. Now I need this. So I had to hit the online dating scene. I had to. I was like desperate. I was like, I need some more of this. And I had my son took my photo. I'm like, this is for Facebook. And it was like I was so nervous. I mean, I look and I like, and then I'd throw my phone down on the bed. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I mean, it was just so crazy. I never felt like that since I was a teenager.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then each of the men, um, it was just, I don't know, each one was a little bit different experience. And it was
Mhm.
almost like they came in the order they had to come in.
Mhm.
So there were a couple that were more my age, and they were just duds for me. And I have some funny, I mean, listeners and viewers, there's some really funny stories in here about like what happens, how I have to learn how to set boundaries again, how I have to learn how to politely reject men I'm not interested
Yeah.
in. Why I spent 3 extra hours with somebody I really can't wait to like end this date, but I feel obligated. And I don't know, it was exhilarating. Actually, it was just exhilarating. And it happened over 6 months after the first younger guy. A few
Mm.
months later, it was like boom, 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 10. I was so on fire, and my brain and my hormones were so on fire, I couldn't even sleep. And then
Mhm.
one day, boom, I'm like, whew, I'm done.
Mhm.
I am done. And then 6 weeks later, I'm at the beach with all my books surrounded around me. And there's that, like, oh my God, it feels so hot. What's happening? And there's this other younger man. And I'm like, is he looking at me? I can't tell. Oh my God. Oh my God. And then we have this encounter, and that was different. So the other men, I was in charge. And
Mhm.
then that prepared me then for getting swept up by the archetypal forces. So, from a Jungian psychology perspective, what is happening is with these other men and exploring my mother wound and getting divorced, all this stuff, I was doing personal work, personal
Yeah.
complexes, frontal complexes. There is a point in this journey of individuation where when you get a hold of those things,
Mhm.
then you are accessible to the archetypal energies, the gods and goddesses who want to use your experience to expand consciousness and expand archetypal ideas
Mhm.
about the feminine, the masculine, the hero's journey, the grief, whatever it is that is your experience has to do with. And for me, it was this reconciling of sexuality and spirituality, which I didn't realize that I needed to have happen for me. So that was my wound. And when I was ready, and for the younger man too, man, I was swept up. Now, if I hadn't been studying depth psychology, my ego, my mind would have probably said, no, don't do that. What are you doing? But because I was studying depth psychology and I knew there was a deeper meaning to being swept up, because you can also be
Mm.
what Carl Jung would say is possessed by the archetype. So we sometimes have friends who like go off the rails and they do things and you're like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Well, that there was a little of that in my experience. I mean, some of my reviews, people say, "Oh my gosh, I was shocked at some of the things she did. I was cringed when she described this." But I had this Jungian analyst, number one, and I had this
Hmm.
framework and this journaling that I knew that I wouldn't do something stupid. Let's put it that way. But it really tested my controlling complex. So I call myself a recovering control freak. I had to let go and I had to have these experiences. But I knew that myself, my framework, Carl Jung, were there to sort of hold the space for me. So I would have this transformative experience and I wouldn't lose myself in it.
Yeah, and you were doing your studies on Carl Jung at the time, right? Like as you were going through the entire experience, which is an interesting thing I think, to go through because now you're in like real lifetime learning and experiential learning. Because again, you say something like, "Oh, I've been in my head all of this time, and now it's time for me to be in my body and to experience
Yeah.
everything that's trying to come
Oh,
through me," right? And
yes.
and
Yes.
and surrendering. So I know there's like, and I don't want to ruin like the book for anybody, but there's parts where you have like I think there's the guy when you talk about BDSM, right? The one like you're talking about dominance and
Mhm.
submission. And you're like, I'm just gonna go and submit. And then in the end, like you took control. So I always say that anyway, that
Right,
the
right.
submissive is
Yeah,
in
so
control
so
always.
I
But
got yeah, so I got seduced into this realm by images. And the image is the language of the psyche, of the
Mhm,
soul. So when I describe how I am texting with this man who is like, yeah, I'm a dominant, I'm trained, like right there, it's kind of his ego talking, right? So I should have known better,
mhm,
but the images he sends, these beautiful black and white erotic photos, beautiful, not raunchy, just
mhm,
beautiful. And I'm like taken in by it. And it was later on. So, again, what is the deeper meaning of this desire to submit? And it's not until later on when I meet, Philip and he's not there anymore that I have this fantasy of of submitting. And it was so strong that I was like, I'm not asking for this fantasy. Where is this coming from? That's your unconscious. And it was
mhm.
so strong and repetitive that I drew it. And I had to search, how do you draw a naked man with an erect penis? And how do you draw a woman kneeling naked? Look, and I drew it.
Yep.
And then I might have wrote surrender, or I think I wrote receptive. And so
Mm,
to submit is not a passive act. To
yep.
submit is a choice. And what I was submitting to was myself that came in the form, the image of a man to submit to.
Mm,
Now, a man has a penis. And later, well, maybe you haven't gotten there in the book yet, where I have a series of dreams about the phallic
mhm,
symbol. And that had to do with me being receptive to creative forces, right? So I have a womb, but I also have my own penis in one of the
yeah.
dreams. And so that is a kind of reconciling between the masculine, feminine, sexuality and spirituality, the womb, the where the creativity happens, the phallus, where the creativity sort of takes shape. So, yeah, I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, yeah, well, and you described some of your dreams, which are really amazing. I which was like one of my questions was, oh, so as you were going through your experiences dating and your dreams were your dreams becoming more vivid? Because I know that you interpret dreams. So were they becoming more vivid as you were exploring your subconscious and and going in specifically to explore lucid dreaming, or
No,
no?
I don't really like the idea of lucid dreaming, but that I have
Okay.
an opinion about. So I mean that's a great question because our unconscious speaks to us in many, many different ways. So I went through during my unraveling and reconstruction, there were phases where my dream world was very active and it
Hmm.
really focused on themes. Like for a period of time, there were toilet dreams and water, and it was a kind of reflected purging. Uh, Dreams where black goop was coming out of my eyes and it wouldn't
Hmm.
stop, and hair was coming out of my throat and it wouldn't stop, and it was gagging me, and pooping on the toilet in the front yard and things like that. And then there was and water, and then there was a period of dreams of houses. So houses in a dream can symbolize the different components of your psyche, like the
Hmm.
rooms, different aspects of you, different traits, different personalities. And so they evolved over time. And then there was a month of dreams about my former husband. This is later on, 2 years
Hmm.
after we're divorced, 10 of those dreams in 1 month. And then there were dreams about my relationship with the phallic symbol, from it was on a man to it was on me to it was like floating in the air to like that sort of, and me being hesitant. Now, there was a period of time when it really wasn't about dreams, it was my image journal. So I would just feel like I couldn't articulate something that was happening through the mind, and which actually is better. So if you do spontaneous drawing, you will get something and the mind's like, what does that mean? And that's good because the mind wants to
Hmm.
define things right away. So at the end of my book, you might not have skipped back there, but in the appendix is a series of images from my image journal, and you can see how they track with my journey, the individuation journey. Now, films, I talk a little bit about films, but not as much as films really were a preferred way that my unconscious helped me gain insights, first about my personal parental complexes, then helping me understand my former husband's parental father complex. And then they shifted from the personal. And then also, I probably didn't say this in there. During my second quarter, it's when the 50 Shades of Grey movie came out, and
Hmm.
I wrote and analyzed a paper about the extremes when it came to the reaction to the film, from people who didn't even see it, who thought it was terrible, to people who felt
Yeah.
liberated, and women, grandmas, mothers, and daughters reading the book. And I didn't know the full meaning, the deeper meaning. I just was interested in it, right? But then
Mm.
that's how I start getting acclimated with this wound, this deeper thing that I have going on. And then the films move to more of, again, from the personal to the archetypal. And then what's next after that? Once you're swept up and you begin to find a new sense of purpose and
Hmm.
you finish the hero's journey, circle back to the heroine part, which you go back to community and you serve a purpose. You share the booty, the treasure, the knowledge, the wisdom,
Hmm.
whatever it is. And many of the films that I saw 8 times were really about helping me see how the films were capturing something that's happening in the collective society that nobody else is seeing in the movie except me, but that it is helping me connect dots and see things that a lot of people are missing.
Okay,
So,
like in the 50 Shades of Grey? Is that
well,
or in other films?
yeah. Oh, well, I mean, those films are crazy. They're all superhero films. So,
Mm.
Alita Battle Angel is very much about patriarchy going down, preparing for that, and the reconciling between the feminine and the masculine. Black Panther and the Black Panther image showed up in my bedroom. I think I do describe that experience
Hmm.
in my dreams. Captain Marvel. Uh, and Aquaman.
Hmm.
Aquaman is sort of a symbol of the real meaning of the book of Revelation, or not, we can't say real meaning because that was a dream and nobody knows what it means. But a Jungian interpretation is that this reckoning is about spirituality and earth, body, sexuality, right? So
Hmm.
spirit, right? Spirit, body, nature, masculine and feminine. It really is about the reconciling of that split. And that is what's happening, on a global basis, overall, that's happening. So, yeah, so those movies, like I would just keep seeing them every week. I'd walk to the movie theater and then like the fourth time, maybe I'd have a napkin. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta write this down. I gotta write this down. Eighth time,
Hmm.
lead a battle on you. Oh my gosh. And then I go home and journal about it. I mean, I'm really a nerd about this stuff too. So
Okay, so then how does your like how do you experience it now? Because you say your greatest turn on is your mind, right? And so experiencing it in the body, so experiencing the archetypes in your body. How do you experience your awakening, your pleasure? You had a very visceral experience around kundalini, right? You talk
yeah.
about the serpent and the entering of the serpent, and that
Yep.
was in a dream, but also in a very
Well,
real experience.
that actually wasn't a yeah, that wasn't a dream. So
Okay.
actually I was with the younger man I got swept up with. So that man,
Mm.
not any of the online dating. So this is where I'm having a very transformative relationship. It's early. No, is it? It's I don't know. I think it's Christmas actually. And the kids are gone. He's over at my house. He's gonna be going to his family's. He's tired, and I'm like, let's go upstairs and just lay down. And he did, and I think both of us like took off our tops, and that was it. And he lays down, he falls asleep, and I'm laying on
Mhm.
top of him, skin to skin, and I'm just like sensing his heartbeat, and I
Mhm.
start to disappear, sort of like I start to just blur, which means I'm open. I'm not
Yeah.
sleeping though, so I'm not often open, not thinking, right? But in this moment, this is what he did for me. And then suddenly I'm like, I'm imagining him between my legs. Oh, hey. And he's pleasuring me. And I'm like, okay, that's nice, right? And then
Mhm.
he morphs into a giant snake, a serpent, a red snake. And so I'm laying on him and I'm like, this is all happening inside. I'm not really moving, but I sort of clenched my muscles a little bit at the thought of the snake entering me. Right.
Mhm.
And in the book, I say, I really did think this. I'm like, okay, this is so wrong. But this is Carl Jung saying it's just a symbol. You allow the symbol. I had to say that to myself to surrender to the experience. So very strong mind. So
Mhm.
it enters me and I just feel like everything. I feel transported to what I thought at the time was an ancient feminine realm. And it
Mm.
aroused me so much that if I would have moved, I would have had an orgasm and I didn't. And I didn't tell anybody about that for a very long time because I was like, what is happening to me? So that is a kind of like, well, we could talk about the symbolism of the snake and the serpent. The
Mhm.
snake is a symbol for goddess before there was the word goddess.
Mhm.
So when you think about the snake in the Garden of Eden, that's a goddess symbol. And the goddess symbol is like, come here, tree of knowledge. You need to know the difference between good and evil. You need to be responsible, right? And so, Christians are like, no, no, we want to stay in innocence. We don't want to know what's right and
Mhm.
wrong. So that's what that's all about. So, and it's also a symbol for transformation. So, yeah, so that was one of my embodied experiences.
Mhm.
And also, people don't realize that the root of to know something is to relate to it. So you cannot know completely through the mind. That's why we have lots of religious people who think they know, but they can't relate to the words because they haven't like experienced it in the
Yeah.
body. And so that's what I was starting to do, really come into relationship with the body. And then, yes, and then later on, I have, as I surrender more and feel the weight during meditation lifted from me and feel that I'm not alone in the universe, then that becomes arousing. And
Mm.
that becomes orgasmic. And then I'm like, okay, really now I'm having orgasms as I contemplate God. Okay, I can't tell anybody that either. Like, that sounds a little crazy. But, those are mystic experiences. So,
Hmm.
all world religions have this part, this branch of them that is embodied experience with the divine, not just through the mind. So,
Yeah, and I had spoken to another guest, and we were talking about that we're supposed to experience the divine through the body, that it's a that there is this connection, that we're not supposed to be separated from it.
yeah.
So
But
yeah,
then you can't control people who
yeah,
find their own relationship with source. So
yeah.
that's
That
why
is very.
that's why those traditions are suppressed. But they never
Hmm.
go away. They never completely go away.
No, because the knowing, I think that to me is part of the voice that shows up, and that midlife is so integral to, because there's something about facing immortality. There's something about having lived a certain life and getting to the point where there's a knowing that starts to creep up that you can't deny. Otherwise, it really is a death. And there's different kinds of deaths. Like, to me, there's like the death that we fear, right, where you're going to slough everything off, and you can see it coming, and the death happens. And again, I think you say something like there's freedom in the death. And then there's the kind of death, which I'm not sure if it's a death, but that numbing, which is, I'm going to deny myself. I'm going to live in my ego, and I refuse. Maybe it's the refusal of the deaths to happen.
Yes, because there isn't death then, because those forces live in your body and they just gather negative energy and they find a way to sneak out. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
and the death that comes with transformation is not pleasant. It's
No.
suffering. It is suffering. And
Hmm.
you really, like, some people, they like the word unraveling better than crisis, but no, like,
No.
really true transformation, it rocks your sense of identity,
Hmm.
and it's supposed to. And in fact, the metaphor of the caterpillar turning into the butterfly, James Hillman is one of my favorite writers on
Hmm.
individuation. And he's got one book that on the cover is just a giant butterfly. And it was the first time I read the actual experience of a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. The caterpillar, first of all, gorges itself. It can't
Hmm.
move. And then it just like spins this thing. And the caterpillar dissolves into goo.
Hmm.
Goo. So these are the phases of transformation. And it just like becomes nothing before it takes this butterfly shape, right? And then the butterfly, your new consciousness cannot stay in the same shell, in the same, your same
Hmm.
conscious, your personality, your persona. And so the butterfly actually has to scratch its way out because it's suffocating. So
Hmm.
this is what happens to us. Like, this is why I had to like leave that job before I had another job. I tried my hardest to get another job, and I could like, I'm like, what is wrong? I should be able to at least tolerate a job that makes me so much money. And
Hmm.
I couldn't do anymore. I had to scratch my way out of something that was just killing me, that was suffocating me. So, but if you have a framework, then you know there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So then
Yeah.
you build the capacity to suffer through it. You suffer through knowing that if you allow this awful feeling, that it will pass. This too shall pass. That's really the deep
Hmm.
meaning of this too shall pass. Don't resist. Don't resist. Just allow the discomfort, allow the images, and then it transmutes into an insight. Ah, I
We
know
have,
something.
yes. I so we're going to be wrapping up in five. So I'm going to make this quick, because we always do our
Okay.
our
Yeah,
10
yeah.
questions. We'll try to get through this as much as possible.
I will be
God,
very
this time
short.
I have so many. No, no, it's good. No, I don't need you to be short. You be tall and grand with those fabulous legs. Okay. What's one truth your body has always known that took your mind years to catch up to?
What is one truth that my body? Oh, that my sexuality is a gift. It's
Here,
how I
here.
it's how I connect. Even if it's
Mm,
has nothing to do with sex, it's just how I connect.
beautiful. Thank you. So, what's the most intimate moment you've ever had that had nothing to do with sex?
Well, during those times of meditating and praying, and meeting the divine that removes some, I mean, that was intimate for me.
Mm,
So I've had quite a few actually, but yeah,
thank you. That one? Yeah. If you could be remembered for one sensation you gave someone, what would it be?
one sensation.
Mhm.
Uh, aha, an insight, a soul shifting insight.
Mm. If pleasure were a language, what would your first word be?
Depth.
Mm. And if your erotic life had a title, like a novel or a film, what would it be called?
My erotic life. I mean, I like when sex meets God. I mean,
I
because
do
that's,
too.
yeah, I mean, it kind of sounds
I
like,
think it I think it does though. We're talking about yeah, Netflix and dreams. I'm like, nah,
I mean,
like
sex shows
when
up
sex
and
meets ghosts.
yeah, here's God, here's sex. They meet up, they have a thing. I mean, and then look what happens.
And then look what
They
happens.
have a
A whole
baby,
universe.
creative expression. Yep.
Right? What's one thing you've never said out loud, but you wish someone would ask you about?
Hmm. I'm kind of an oversharer now, but so I don't wait to be asked. But that's interesting because INFJs, people really don't know them unless they ask questions.
Mm.
What is what is one something I wish somebody would ask me? Ooh, um, what is really happening in the world right now?
Mm, thank you.
Because I have thoughts on it.
What part of your erotic self are you still afraid to bring into the light?
Nothing. I'm not. I'm not. I mean, I still like, I went almost 4 years without having a date, and I did have a date about a month ago. And so I had that little awkwardness in my belly, and
Mhm.
I love that. But it was, then he showed, it was one of those, it was like Planetarian Man in the book.
Mhm.
Like, oh no.
Like, ah, the disappointment. Okay.
I just wanted to be
What?
his depth psychology coach by the end of the date.
That's never a good sign, though.
It's
That's
gonna be
not,
hard.
nope.
It's just gonna be hard to find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What dies in you when you pretend, and what comes alive when you don't?
Well, I don't pretend anymore. And I have made an agreement with myself to always be honest, especially with men. I had a chance. I came back home recently. And so reinserting myself in the community as a different person, more authentic person
Mm.
is interesting. So what dies, I mean, is what I have to offer, my potential when I
Mm,
hold back.
thank
And
you.
yeah,
Do you want to add anything?
no, that's good.
Okay. So finish this sentence. When I leave this life, I want my skin to remember.
When I leave this life, I want my skin to remember.
Hmm.
I don't, what, can you explain that?
Yeah. How do you want to, what do you want to remember viscerally in being in this flesh?
Oh, okay.
If you could take it with you.
Oh, my man, Philip. Just
Mm,
laying naked with Philip, I'd still do it. I wouldn't be in a relationship with him, but I'm still quite like I don't know the deeper meaning of why I still think about him, but like,
Mm.
I don't know if I'll ever like feel the way I felt sensually as I did with him for just who kn- I you know, I don't know. So I'm glad I had the experience once.
At least once. It's not over yet. Okay, we have one last one, which is if the soul has a scent, what does yours smell like today?
Hmm. Oh, I think it smells like arousal.
Ooh, very sexy, yummy.
Scent
All
of arousal.
right. Thank you. Thank you. We're getting kicked off very quickly now. So I just want to invite people. It's deborahlukovich.com.
Yes.
If you want to get in touch with her, is there any place you want to send people? Depth,
So
dose of
at
depth podcast.
Yes, at the top of my website are
Mhm.
all my links to Dose of Depth podcast, my YouTube channel. I do lots of instructional videos about the themes and the chapters of the books, and also I'm on, Instagram, Facebook, etc. I have a blog. I do a lot of writing about dreams. So, and there's a whole page dedicated to When Sex Meets God. So, where you can buy it, because if you don't like Amazon, you can buy it at bookshop.org. If you got a local library, just tell me who to reach out to. Right now, I'm just trying to get it in people's hands, and I hope they enjoy it.
Amazing. Thank you. And for anyone who's interested in what I do, you can go to gwenmcarsley.com. I'm a body, sex, and soul coach, in case anyone has forgotten. And after that, have a beautiful day, morning, night, wherever you are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Skin and Soul with me, Gwenm. Join me Fridays at 10 a.m. PST on Transformation Talk Radio. Catch the podcast anytime on your favorite platforms. You can follow me on Instagram at Luvology. Ready to take the next step? Book a compatibility call with me at gwenmcarsley.com.